What's up, everybody? Citizen Kimberly here. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for liking the channel. Thank you for hitting the red button. And don't forget to do that because it lets Google know that I exist, and that is important. And now, it's time for an episode of Netflix and Chop, where we slice open and dissect the featured film. Today's feature is a 2012 dramedy/comedy named Moonrise Kingdom, written by Ronan Coppola and Wes Anderson and directed by Wes Anderson. The opening scene is a very widespread view of a very spacious house and a young girl who is channeling Margot from the Royal Tenenbaums and Bridget Bardot. She is sitting with her siblings, she's reading, she is stone-faced, she is interesting. We are sucked in. Then we are flashed to Edward Norton, who is appearing in his scout leader uniform, which is very interesting. He's going throughout his day. He's very regimented. He's giving out orders. He's giving out citations. And then something goes amiss when he discovers that one of his troop members is missing. Through dialogue, we discover that the boy that is missing comes from a broken home. His parents are deceased, and he has been placed in foster care. There is like an APB being put out for this boy. At the same time, we find out that the young girl who is channeling Bridget Bardot is also missing, and that these two are linked to each other and they know each other. The way that they kind of are introduced to each other, the way that the story is told, it's almost like star-crossed lovers, and the setting would be a bar. However, it's actually a school play where the young man points out the girl and he says, "Who are you?" And the young girl is like, "Oh my gosh." So the two adolescents run off together, and there's this huge search. We kind of find out in a very interesting way the dynamics between the young man and the young girl, and how they're both troubled, and how they have this adolescent, very cute and interesting appreciation and love for each other. So then we're introduced to other characters, and through dialogue, scenery, and all of these very epic still shots and interactions, we see backstory. The backstory is given in a very lovely and interesting way. How could you not love that? So that's the plot analysis. Let's get right into my thoughts. Wes Anderson's 2012 Moonrise Kingdom was nominated for an Oscar. So through curiosity, I had to figure out, why was this movie nominated for an Oscar? What is so special about this Wes Anderson movie? A lot of people might say that Wes Anderson is sort of the hipster director of the times. He's a genius, and a lot of people might call it overrated. But upon viewing this film, I found that that is just not the case. He actually expresses a different way of telling the story than his usual Life Aquatic or even Bottle Rocket style. I would say that it's similar to the Royal Tenenbaums, but I do believe his vision for storytelling was exceeded in this film. Wes Anderson has a particular way of directing that causes the viewer to be intrigued, not only through set design and meticulously placed items throughout the film, but it's more or less like your vision is being pulled to follow. When a doctor holds a pen and he says, "Now follow this with your eyes." Through the camera and the motions of the camera, you're able to kind of visually follow, which makes this film extremely watchable, because there are always some things that you're being pulled to watch that need to be watched, which may or may not have anything to do with the film, but all the same, it ties in well with the story. I will say that I felt like this story was completely inspired by Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. If any of you know that very old school cartoon, I do think that there was a slight hint or a nod to that particular film, as the dog was named Snoopy. A lot of people call this film whimsical and airy-fairy. I don't necessarily think that I would call it whimsical. I do think that I will say it's a very well told story. There's nothing that deep or anything that's slicing or something that would make you think. The story is put directly in front of your face, and it is what it is. But his vision for the story is what makes it completely interesting. It's also carried out very well by a cast which includes Bill Murray, Edward Norton, Frances McDormand, and a slew of others. Oh, and Bruce Willis. A very well put together cast, very well put together acting. So if you're into films that lay out a story and tell it in a very interesting visual way, if you're into characters that give you a bit of depth but not too much, you kind of get who they are based on their facial expressions and just the long pauses that are held in between the dialogue. I feel like, that's just the biggest nod. The cast actually pulls off the movie along with the design, way the division is told by Wes Anderson. So if you're into that kind of movie, then I definitely would suggest to watch Moonrise Kingdom. In my book, I give it an A++, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you all have a very good day, and don't forget to have fun.